Maya Washington adjusted her black apron for the third time in 10 minutes. The fabric felt heavier than usual against her uniform, weighing down her shoulders like the burden she carried every day. At 24, she had been working at Romano's fine dining for almost 2 years, and still, every shift felt like walking through a minefield. The upscale restaurant in downtown Chicago attracted wealthy clients who often looked right through her, as if she were invisible furniture. The evening rush was starting early. Maya glanced at the reservation book and saw dozens of names penciled in for the night. Her section included table 12, where a group of well-dressed women had just been seated. She grabbed her notepad and pen, took a deep breath, and walked over with her practiced smile. "Good evening, ladies. Welcome to Romano's. Can I start you off with something to drink?" Maya's voice was professional and warm, despite the knot forming in her stomach. The woman at the head of the table looked up with barely concealed annoyance. Victoria Blackwell was in her early 30s, impeccably dressed in a designer dress that probably cost more than Maya made in 3 months. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon, and her makeup was flawless. She placed one manicured hand on her slightly rounded belly, drawing attention to her pregnancy. Finally, Victoria said with a sigh, "We've been waiting forever." She hadn't been waiting more than 2 minutes, but Maya knew better than to correct her. "I'll have the house red wine, and make sure it's a good vintage. Not that cheap stuff you probably serve most people." Maya's smile never wavered, though something cold settled in her chest. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't serve alcohol to pregnant women. It's our restaurant policy and also the law. Can I suggest our sparkling grape juice? It's quite popular." The temperature at the table seemed to drop 10 degrees. Victoria's eyes narrowed, and her 3 companions shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The silence stretched out like a taut wire ready to snap. "Excuse me." Victoria's voice was dangerously quiet. "Did you just refuse to serve me?" Maya felt her palms grow sweaty. She had encountered difficult customers before, but something about this woman's tone made her nervous. "Ma'am, I'm just following restaurant policy. Pregnant women shouldn't drink alcohol, and we're required by law not to serve it to you. I'd be happy to recommend our extensive selection of mocktails, or how dare you?" Victoria's voice rose sharply, causing other diners to turn and stare. "How dare you make assumptions about my condition? Who do you think you are to tell me what I can and cannot drink?" Maya felt the familiar heat of embarrassment creeping up her neck. She was used to being talked down to, but this felt different. More personal. "Ma'am, I apologize if I offended you. I was just trying to follow the rules. Perhaps I could get the manager." "Yes, you will get the manager," Victoria snapped. "And you'll also get me that wine. I'm a paying customer, and I don't need some waitress telling me what I can and cannot do with my own body." The way Victoria said waitress made it sound like a dirty word. Maya nodded quickly, her professional training kicking in despite her growing discomfort. "Of course, ma'am. I'll be right back with the manager." As Maya walked away, she could hear Victoria's voice carrying across the dining room. "Can you believe the nerve? These people think they can tell us what to do. I swear, give them a little bit of authority, and it goes straight to their heads." Maya found herself walking faster than necessary toward the manager's office. Her hands were shaking slightly, and she paused outside the door to compose herself. Michael Romano, the owner's son, was a fair man who had always treated her with respect. Surely he would understand her position. She knocked gently on the door frame. Michael looked up from his paperwork, noting her expression immediately. "Maya? Everything okay? I have a situation with table 12, she began, explaining the interaction as objectively as possible. Michael listened without interrupting, his brow furrowing as she spoke. "She wants wine? And she's clearly pregnant?" he asked for clarification. "Very clearly, sir. She's not hiding it at all. I could get in trouble with the state if I serve her alcohol." Michael nodded slowly. "You did the right thing, Maya. Let me go talk to her." They walked back toward the dining room together. But before they reached table 12, Victoria's voice rang out again, louder this time. "I want to speak to whoever is in charge. This is absolutely unacceptable service." Other diners were now openly staring. Maya felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment. In her 2 years at Romano's, she had never caused such a scene. She prided herself on handling difficult situations quietly and professionally. Michael approached the table with his best customer service smile. Ladies, I'm Michael Romano. I understand there's been some confusion about your drink order. Victoria's demeanor changed instantly. She sat up straighter, smoothed her hair, and put on a charming smile. Oh, Mr. Romano. Yes, there seems to be a misunderstanding. Your waitress refused to serve me wine, claiming I'm pregnant. I find that assumption both rude and unprofessional. Maya's mouth fell open slightly. She looked at Victoria's obvious baby bump, then at Michael, who followed her gaze. The woman was clearly pregnant. There was no mistaking it. I see, Michael said carefully. Well, as I'm sure you understand, we have legal obligations regarding serving alcohol to pregnant women. It's not personal, it's just policy. But I'm not pregnant, Victoria said firmly, her hand moving protectively to her stomach. This is just, I've gained some weight recently. I'm very sensitive about it. And your waitress's assumption was deeply hurtful. Maya stared in disbelief. The woman was obviously lying, but she was doing it with such conviction that Maya began to doubt her own eyes. Victoria's companions nodded sympathetically, backing up her story. I understand this is a sensitive topic, Michael said diplomatically. Perhaps we could. Look, Victoria interrupted, pulling out her phone. I can show you pictures from just last month. I've always carried weight in my midsection, and I've been dealing with bloating lately. Your waitress made a hurtful assumption based on my appearance, and then doubled down on it instead of apologizing. She scrolled through her phone and showed Michael what appeared to be recent photos of herself at various social events. Maya couldn't see the images clearly from where she stood, but Michael's expression suggested they supported Victoria's claim. Maya felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. Could she have been wrong? She looked at Victoria again, taking in the rounded belly, the way the woman's hand rested protectively over it, the slight glow to her skin that pregnant women often had. Everything screamed pregnancy to her. But Victoria was so convincing in her denial. I apologize for any offense, Michael said smoothly. We certainly didn't mean to make you uncomfortable. Maya, please get Ms. Blackwell. Victoria Blackwell. She said the name like it should mean something to him. Please get Ms. Blackwell whatever she'd like to drink, with our compliments. Maya nodded numbly, her professional autopilot taking over. What would you like, ma'am? The house red wine. A large glass. Victoria's smile was triumphant. And I expect exemplary service for the rest of the evening. I'll be reviewing this restaurant online, and I have quite a following on social media. As Maya walked to the bar, her mind raced. She had been so certain that Victoria was pregnant. The woman's belly was rounded and firm, not the soft kind that came from weight gain. But Victoria had seemed so confident, so convincing in her denial. And her companions had backed her up. The bartender, Carlos, looked up as she approached. Red wine for table 12, she said quietly. Carlos had been working at Romano's for 5 years and knew Maya well. He could see the stress written across her face. You okay, Maya? You look like you've seen a ghost. I think I just made a huge mistake, she whispered. I refused to serve a woman wine because I thought she was pregnant, but she says she's not. Carlos glanced toward table 12, where Victoria was gesturing animatedly while talking to her friends. The blonde in the blue dress? Maya, that woman is definitely pregnant. I've seen enough pregnant customers to know. But she showed the manager photos, and she was so convincing. Photos can be old, Carlos pointed out as he poured the wine. Trust your instincts, Maya. That woman is lying. Maya took the wine glass with shaking hands. As she walked back toward table 12, she caught snippets of Victoria's conversation with her companions. The audacity of these people. Completely inappropriate. I should sue. Maya placed the wine in front of Victoria with a polite smile. Here you are, ma'am. Is there anything else I can get you? Victoria lifted the glass and took a long sip, maintaining eye contact with Maya the entire time. It felt like a challenge, a power play. This will do. For now. The rest of the evening passed in a blur of uncomfortable interactions. Victoria made a point of sending back her appetizer twice, claiming it was too cold, then too salty. She complained about the temperature in the restaurant, the noise level, and the placement of her table. Each complaint was delivered with a sweet smile and a reasonable tone that made Maya question whether she was being overly sensitive. Maya's other tables began to suffer as she spent more and more time trying to satisfy Victoria's endless demands. She felt other customers growing impatient, saw their disapproving looks as their orders were delayed. Her tips for the evening were going to be terrible. During a brief lull, Maya found herself standing near the kitchen, watching table 12. Victoria was holding court, gesturing with her wine glass as she told some story to her captivated friends. Every few minutes, she would take another sip of wine, and each time, Maya felt a sick feeling in her stomach. "Still bothering you?" Carlos appeared beside her with a tray of clean glasses. "I can't shake the feeling that I'm watching someone hurt their baby," Maya said quietly. "But what if I'm wrong? What if she really isn't pregnant, and I've just been awful to a customer?" "Maya, listen to me," Carlos said seriously. "That woman is pregnant. I'd bet my job on it. I don't know why she's lying about it, but she is. Then, why would she drink wine? What kind of mother would do that?" Carlos shrugged. "Some people make terrible choices. Some people are just terrible. But that doesn't make you wrong about what you saw." Maya nodded, but the doubt continued to gnaw at her. She had grown up in a family where questioning your own perceptions was dangerous. Her mother had always told her she was too sensitive, too quick to judge, too ready to see problems where none existed. Maybe this was another one of those times. The dinner service continued with Victoria ordering a second glass of wine, then a third. With each drink, Maya's anxiety grew. She found herself making small mistakes, dropping a fork, forgetting to refill water glasses, mixing up orders. Her hands shook as she carried trays, and she could feel sweat beading on her forehead despite the restaurant's air conditioning. Victoria seemed to notice Maya's distress and appeared to enjoy it. She would catch Maya's eye and raise her wine glass slightly, as if in a toast, before taking another sip. The gesture felt deliberately cruel. "Maya," Michael appeared at her elbow during her 7th trip to table 12. "Can I see you for a moment?" They stepped into the quiet hallway near the restrooms. Michael's expression was concerned, but not angry. "I've been watching table 12, and I can see this situation is affecting your performance. Are you sure you can handle finishing out their service?" Maya wanted to tell him everything about her growing certainty that Vic the following evening. Maya arrived at Romano's 30 minutes early, hoping to settle her nerves before the shift began. She had barely slept, replaying the previous night's events over and over in her mind. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Victoria Blackwell's triumphant smile as she sipped wine while clearly pregnant. Maya changed into her uniform in the employee break room, a cramped space with mismatched furniture and a coffee machine that only worked half the time. She stared at herself in the cracked mirror above the sink, noting the dark circles under her eyes and the worried lines around her mouth. "You look like hell," said Jennifer, another waitress who had been working at Romano's for 6 months. Jennifer was 19, studying business at community college, and had a way of speaking that was both blunt and somehow comforting. "Thanks," Maya replied dryly. "Just what every girl wants to hear." "Rough night." Jennifer sat down on the worn couch and started tying her apron. "I heard there was some drama with one of your tables yesterday." Word traveled fast in the restaurant industry. Maya wasn't surprised that other staff members had heard about the incident. "A customer claimed I made assumptions about her condition. It got complicated." "Was she pregnant?" Jennifer asked directly. Maya paused in adjusting her hairnet. "That's what I thought, but she denied it. Showed the manager photos proving otherwise." Jennifer snorted. "Photos can be from any time." "Was she showing?" "Obviously. Like, really obviously." "Then, she was lying." Jennifer's tone was matter of fact. "Question is, why would someone lie about being pregnant while drinking alcohol? That's pretty messed up." Before Maya could respond, Michael Romano appeared in the doorway. "Maya, could I speak with you for a moment?" Maya's stomach dropped. She followed Michael to his office, her mind racing through possibilities. Had Victoria complained again? Left a bad review online? Demanded that Maya be fired? Michael closed the door and gestured for her to sit. His expression was serious, but not hostile. "I got a call this morning from Victoria Blackwell." "Oh no," Maya said quietly. "What did she say?" "She wanted to speak to the owner directly. Demanded your termination for discrimination and unprofessional behavior." Michael paused, studying Maya's face. She also threatened legal action against the restaurant. Maya felt the blood drain from her face. She needed this job desperately. Her mother was undergoing cancer treatments, and Maya was helping with medical bills while also trying to save money for nursing school. Losing this position would be catastrophic. However, Michael continued, I did some research on Ms. Blackwell after she left last night. Maya looked up hopefully. Research. Victoria Blackwell is married to Charles Blackwell, the real estate developer. They're quite wealthy, quite prominent in certain social circles. Michael leaned forward. They're also currently going through a very public, very messy divorce. I don't understand. What does that have to do with, according to the gossip columns, which I normally wouldn't put much stock in, Charles Blackwell has been claiming his wife is an alcoholic. He's using it as grounds for the divorce and to gain custody of their existing children. Michael paused meaningfully. Victoria has been denying these claims vehemently. Maya's mind raced as the implications sank in. So if she's pregnant and drinking, it would give significant weight to her husband's accusations. It would also potentially give him grounds to seek full custody of the new baby as well. But she showed you photos proving she wasn't pregnant. Michael's expression was grim. I've been thinking about those photos all night, Maya. They could have been taken at any time. And looking back on last night, her behavior was strange. Why would someone fight so hard for the right to drink alcohol if they weren't hiding something? Maya felt a spark of vindication, followed immediately by horror. You think she really is pregnant? And she's drinking because she doesn't want her husband to be able to use a pregnancy against her in the divorce. I think, Michael said carefully, that you may have been right to trust your instincts. But I also think this situation is much more complicated than either of us initially realized. The weight of the revelation settled on Maya's shoulders. She had thought she was dealing with a difficult customer. Instead, she had stumbled into the middle of someone else's family crisis, complete with legal implications and an unborn child caught in the crossfire. What do we do? Maya asked. Legally, we can't do much. She denied being pregnant, and we served her alcohol based on her claims. If she comes back, we're in a difficult position. She's coming back? Michael nodded grimly. She made a reservation for tonight. Same time, same table. She specifically requested you as her server. Maya felt sick. She requested me? Why would she do that? I think she wants to prove a point. Or maybe she's testing us to see if we'll refuse service again. Michael leaned back in his chair. Maya, I want you to know that I believe you acted appropriately last night. You followed our policies and the law. But tonight, I have to serve a pregnant woman alcohol again. Tonight you have to serve a customer who claims not to be pregnant and has no legal obligation to prove otherwise. Maya stared at her hands, trying to process the impossible situation. Mr. Romano, what if something happens to the baby? What if I'm helping someone hurt their child? Michael was quiet for a long moment. Maya, I've been in the restaurant business for 15 years. I've served alcohol to people who probably shouldn't have been drinking for dozens of different reasons. Alcoholics, people on medication, people who were clearly planning to drive. The law says we can refuse service to visibly intoxicated patrons, but beyond that. But this is different. This is a baby. Yes, it is. Michael's voice was heavy. But if Victoria Blackwell is willing to lie about being pregnant and drink alcohol while carrying a child, the problem is much bigger than what happens at our restaurant. She could buy alcohol at any liquor store, order drinks at any bar that doesn't know her situation. Maya understood what he was saying, but it didn't make her feel any better. So I just serve her whatever she wants and try not to think about it. You do your job professionally and let other people make their own choices, even if those choices are terrible. Michael paused. Maya, I know this is hard. If you want, I can assign her table to someone else tonight. Maya considered this option. It would be easier, certainly, but it would also feel like running away, and she had already done too much of that in her life. No, if she specifically requested me, there's probably a reason. Maybe I can figure out what's really going on. Michael looked concerned. Maya, I appreciate your dedication, but don't try to solve this woman's problems. You're a waitress, not a social worker or a detective. Do your job, be professional, and don't get emotionally invested. But as Maya left Michael's office and began preparing for her shift, she knew she was already emotionally invested. The image of Victoria drinking wine while pregnant was burned into her memory. She couldn't unsee it, couldn't stop thinking about the potential consequences. The dinner rush began as usual, with Maya handling her regular section efficiently despite her preoccupation. She kept glancing toward table 12, which remained empty as the dinner hour progressed. Maybe Victoria would change her mind. Maybe she wouldn't show up. At exactly 7:30, Victoria Blackwell walked through the restaurant's front doors. She was wearing a different outfit than the previous night, a flowing emerald dress that somehow made her pregnancy even more obvious. She walked with the confidence of someone who owned the world, her head held high, and her designer handbag clutched in one manicured hand. This time, she was alone. Maya watched as the hostess led Victoria to table 12, the same table she had occupied the night before. Victoria settled into her chair with a satisfied smile and immediately began studying the wine list. Taking a deep breath, Maya approached the table with her professional smile in place. "Good evening, Ms. Blackwell. Welcome back to Romano's." Victoria looked up with mock surprise. "Oh, it's you again. How lovely." Her tone was saccharine sweet with an undercurrent of malice. "I do hope we won't have any misunderstandings tonight." "Of course not, ma'am. What can I get you to drink?" "I'll have a glass of your finest Cabernet Sauvignon." "A large glass." Victoria's eyes never left Maya's face. "I trust there won't be any problems with that order?" Maya felt her chest tighten, but she maintained her composure. "Absolutely not. I'll have that right out for you." As Maya walked toward the bar, she could feel Victoria's eyes following her. The woman was definitely testing her, seeing if Maya would try to refuse service again. But why? What was the point of this elaborate charade? Carlos was working the bar again, and he raised an eyebrow as Maya approached. "Let me guess. Table 12 wants wine. A large glass of our finest Cabernet." "Maya, this is insane. That woman is clearly pregnant, and she's deliberately tormenting you." "I know." Maya's voice was barely above a whisper. "But what choice do I have? She's denying being pregnant. Management believes her, and I need this job." Carlos poured the wine with obvious reluctance. "There has to be something we can do. This isn't right. Mr. Romano thinks she might be going through a divorce and trying to hide her pregnancy from her husband. So she's willing to risk her baby's health to avoid giving her ammunition in court?" Carlos's expression was disgusted. "That's sick." Maya carried the wine back to Victoria's table, her hands steadier than she felt. She placed the glass in front of the woman with a polite smile. "Here you are. Are you ready to order, or would you like a few more minutes?" Victoria lifted the wine glass and swirled the contents expertly. "This will be perfect for now. I'm not particularly hungry tonight." She took a sip and closed her eyes as if savoring the flavor. "Excellent choice." Maya stood there for a moment, uncertain whether she was dismissed or expected to make conversation. Victoria seemed to enjoy keeping her in limbo. "You know," Victoria said conversationally, "I've been thinking about our interaction last night, about assumptions and prejudices. I apologize again for any offense, ma'am." "Do you?" Victoria's tone was sharp. "Or are you still standing there judging me, making assumptions about my life based on my appearance?" Maya felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I'm just trying to do my job, ma'am. Your job is to serve customers, not to police their personal choices." Victoria took another long sip of wine. "I wonder, do you have children?" The question caught Maya off guard. "No, ma'am." "Then, you really have no idea what you're talking about, do you? No experience, no expertise, just judgmental assumptions based on appearances." Victoria's smile was cold. "How old are you?" 22? 23? 24? 24 years old, no children, probably no real relationships or life experience. And yet you feel qualified to make medical and legal decisions for other people. Victoria's voice was getting louder, drawing attention from nearby tables. Maya felt her professional composure beginning to crack. "Ma'am, I was just following restaurant policy. You were making assumptions about my body, my condition, my choices." Victoria stood up suddenly, her hand on her belly. "This conversation is over. I want to speak to Mr. Romano immediately." Maya's heart sank as she hurried to find Michael. This was exactly what she had feared would happen. Victoria was escalating the situation, probably planning to demand Maya's termination again. She found Michael in the kitchen, expediting orders during the dinner rush. "Mr. Romano? Ms. Blackwell wants to speak with you." Michael's expression darkened. "What happened?" "I served her the wine she ordered. She started asking me personal questions about whether I have children, and then she got upset and demanded to see you. Stay here, Michael instructed. Let me handle this. Maya watched through the kitchen service window as Michael approached table 12. Victoria's demeanor changed instantly, just as it had the night before. The angry, confrontational woman became charming and reasonable. Maya couldn't hear the conversation, but she could see Victoria gesturing expressively, her wine glass in one hand as she spoke. Michael nodded politely, occasionally glancing back toward the kitchen where Maya was watching. After several minutes, Michael returned to the kitchen with a grim expression. She's not happy with your service. Claims you were hovering, making her uncomfortable, giving her judgmental looks. I was just doing my job. I know you were. But, Maya, she's threatening to make this a social media issue. She says she has thousands of followers who need to know about the discrimination she's experiencing here. Maya felt the world tilting around her. Discrimination? She's claiming that you're targeting her because of her appearance, that you're body-shaming her and making assumptions based on her weight. Michael ran a hand through his hair. Maya, I believe you. But this woman has money and influence. If she decides to make this a public issue, you want me to apologize? I want you to finish her table service professionally and then stay away from her. If she comes back, I'll assign her to someone else. Maya nodded, but she knew Victoria Blackwell wasn't going to let this go easily. There was something deliberate and calculated about the woman's behavior, something that went beyond a simple misunderstanding about pregnancy and alcohol. Maya's hands trembled as she carried the coffee pot around the dining room the next morning. Romano's served brunch on weekends, and the atmosphere was usually lighter and more relaxed than dinner service. But Maya couldn't shake the events of the past 2 nights, and she found herself jumping every time the front door opened. She had spent most of the night researching Victoria Blackwell online. What she found painted a picture of a woman whose life was falling apart in spectacular fashion. The divorce proceedings were indeed public record, filled with accusations and counter-accusations. Charles Blackwell claimed Victoria had a drinking problem. Victoria claimed Charles was abusive and controlling. Their 2 young children, ages 6 and 8, were caught in the middle. What Maya couldn't find was any official announcement of a pregnancy. No baby shower announcements on social media, no maternity photos, no pregnancy reveals. Either Victoria was keeping the pregnancy very quiet, or Maya shook her head, trying to focus on her work. The morning crowd was typical for a Saturday. Families with young children, couples on coffee dates, elderly people enjoying a leisurely breakfast. Normal people living normal lives, blissfully unaware of the moral dilemma that was eating Maya alive. Maya, Jennifer appeared at her elbow with a concerned expression. You've got a problem. Maya's stomach dropped. What kind of problem? Jennifer gestured toward the front of the restaurant. That woman from the other night? She's back. And she brought friends. Maya looked toward the entrance and felt her blood run cold. Victoria Blackwell stood near the hostess station, but she wasn't alone. With her were 2 women Maya didn't recognize, both holding smartphones and appearing to record video. Ladies, Maya heard Victoria saying in a voice that carried across the restaurant. This is where I was discriminated against. We're that waitress. Victoria's eyes found Maya across the dining room. Where that waitress over there made horrible assumptions about my body and refused me service. Maya felt every eye in the restaurant turn toward her. Conversation stopped. Forks paused halfway to mouths. The comfortable brunch atmosphere evaporated in an instant. Michael Romano emerged from the kitchen, alerted by the sudden silence. His face went pale when he saw Victoria and her recording companions. He approached them quickly, his customer service smile in place, but strain visible around his eyes. Ms. Blackwell, Maya heard him say, how can we help you this morning? I'm here to document the hostile environment your establishment creates for customers, Victoria announced loudly. I'm showing my friends exactly where I was body-shamed and discriminated against by your staff. One of Victoria's companions, a thin woman with short dark hair, spoke up. Is this the waitress who refused to serve you? She pointed her phone directly at Maya. Maya felt frozen in place. She was still holding the coffee pot, standing next to table 6 where a family with 2 young children was staring at her with confusion and growing alarm. That's her, Victoria confirmed. Maya Washington. She looked at my body, decided I was pregnant without any medical training or authority to do so, and then refused me service based on her assumptions. "Excuse me," said the father at table 6, "but could you please keep your voice down? You're frightening my children." Victoria turned her attention to the family. "I'm sorry for the disruption, but this restaurant employs people who discriminate against women based on their appearance. I think you should know that." The mother at table 6 looked between Victoria and Maya with growing concern. "Maybe we should just leave," she whispered to her husband. Maya watched in horror as the family began gathering their things. They hadn't even finished their meal, but Victoria's scene was making them uncomfortable enough to flee. Other tables were looking around nervously, clearly wondering if they should do the same. "Ma'am," Michael said firmly to Victoria, "I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're disrupting other customers." "I'll speak as loudly as I need to in order to get justice," Victoria replied. "Your waitress violated my civil rights, and I want everyone to know about it." Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. She had done nothing wrong, had followed policy, had tried to protect an unborn child, and now she was being painted as some kind of bigot in front of a restaurant full of people. "Maya," Michael called softly, "could you step into the back for a moment?" Gratefully, Maya hurried toward the kitchen, the coffee pot still clutched in her shaking hands. Behind her, she could hear Victoria's voice continuing to broadcast her grievances to anyone who would listen. In the safety of the kitchen, Maya set down the coffee pot and leaned against the prep counter, trying to catch her breath. Carlos was there, along with Jennifer and 2 of the line cooks. "This is insane," Carlos said angrily. "She's obviously pregnant, and she's making you out to be the villain for trying to protect her baby. She's recording everything," Jennifer added. "This is probably going on social media right now." Maya felt sick. "My name." She said my full name in front of those cameras. The implications hit everyone at the same time. If Victoria posted video online identifying Maya by name and accusing her of discrimination, it could follow Maya for years. Future employers might Google her name and find accusations of prejudice and unprofessional behavior. "We have to do something," Carlos said. "This can't be legal, can it? Coming into someone's workplace and harassing them on camera." Michael appeared in the kitchen doorway, his face grim. "I asked them to leave." Victoria claims she's just exercising her right to free speech and documenting discrimination. "What did you tell them?" Maya asked. "I explained that we followed proper procedures, that we have policies regarding alcohol service, and that any misunderstanding was unintentional." Michael paused. "She laughed at me, said policies don't excuse prejudice." "But she's lying about being pregnant," Jennifer said. "Anyone with eyes can see that." "She's denying it again. Claims she's sensitive about her weight, that she's been body-shamed her whole life, and now she's being persecuted for defending herself against assumptions." Maya slumped against the counter. "She's good at this, making herself sound reasonable while making me look terrible." "Too good," Carlos muttered. "This feels practiced." Michael looked around at his staff, clearly struggling with the situation. "Maya, I think you should go home for the rest of the day. Let this situation cool down." "Am I in trouble?" "No, but I don't want Victoria to have more opportunities to create scenes with you present." Maya nodded and began untying her apron. As she gathered her things from the employee break room, she could still hear Victoria's voice carrying from the dining room, though she couldn't make out the words. She slipped out the back door to avoid another confrontation and walked to her car with her head down. As she drove home, Maya couldn't stop thinking about Victoria's performance. Because that's what it had been, a performance. Every word had been calculated for maximum impact, designed to make Maya look as bad as possible while making Victoria appear to be an innocent victim. But why? What was Victoria really trying to accomplish? Maya's small apartment felt like a refuge after the morning's chaos. She made a cup of tea and sat on her couch, trying to process what had happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. "She's still here." Posted videos on Instagram and Facebook. Hashtag discrimination, hashtag body shaming, hashtag Romano's restaurant. Maya's heart sank. She opened Instagram and searched for Victoria Blackwell's profile. It was easy to find. Victoria had a significant following and posted frequently about her social life, her fitness routine, and her advocacy for various causes. The most recent posts made Maya's stomach turn. Victoria had indeed posted videos from the restaurant, filmed that morning with professional quality lighting and sound. In the videos, Victoria appeared calm and reasonable while describing her traumatic experience of being body-shamed and discriminated against by restaurant staff. "I came here for dinner 2 nights ago," Victoria explained to the camera, "and was refused service because a waitress looked at my body and decided I must be pregnant. When I corrected her assumption, she doubled down and called her manager to back up her prejudice." The video already had hundreds of likes and dozens of comments, most of them expressing outrage on Victoria's behalf. People were calling for boycotts of Romano's, demanding Maya be fired, and sharing their own stories of discrimination. Maya read comment after comment, each one feeling like a knife to her chest. Strangers on the internet were calling her terrible names, making assumptions about her character, and demanding consequences for what they saw as inexcusable behavior. One comment caught her attention. "This is exactly why women avoid certain restaurants. Staff think they can police our bodies and our choices." Another, "That waitress should be fired immediately. This kind of discrimination is illegal." And another, "I'll never eat at Romano's again. Disgusting treatment of customers." Maya's phone rang, startling her out of her internet rabbit hole. It was her mother, calling from the cancer treatment center where she was receiving her weekly chemotherapy. "Maya, honey, I just saw the strangest thing on Facebook," her mother said. "Some woman posted a video claiming she was discriminated against at your restaurant. It mentioned your name." Maya felt tears welling up. "Mom, it's complicated." "What happened, baby?" Maya explained the situation as best she could, trying to keep her voice steady. Her mother listened without interrupting, occasionally making small sounds of concern or disbelief. "Let me understand this," her mother said when Maya finished. "This woman was clearly pregnant, ordered alcohol, and when you followed policy by refusing to serve her, she claimed not to be pregnant." "Yes, ma'am. And now she's posted videos online claiming you discriminated against her." "Yes, ma'am." There was a long pause. "Maya, in my 62 years on this earth, I have never seen a performance like that. That woman is lying, and she's doing it for a reason. But what if I was wrong? What if she really isn't pregnant, and I, Maya Elizabeth Washington," her mother's voice was firm. "I raised you to trust your instincts and to stand up for what's right, even when it's difficult. Don't let this woman make you doubt yourself." "But the videos, Mom. Everyone believes her. They think I'm some kind of monster. People on the internet believe a lot of foolish things. That doesn't make them true." Her mother paused. "Maya, I think this woman is in trouble, and she's trying to make you the villain to cover up whatever she's really doing." "What do you mean?" "Think about it, honey. If someone really wasn't pregnant and was wrongly accused, would they come back to the same restaurant multiple times to make a scene? Would they bring cameras and post videos online? Most people would just leave a bad review and find somewhere else to eat." Maya had been thinking the same thing, but hearing it from her mother made it feel more real. "So what do? You find out the truth, and then you expose it." After hanging up with her mother, Maya sat in the growing darkness of her apartment, thinking about Victoria's behavior over the past 3 days. There was definitely something calculated about it, something that went beyond a simple misunderstanding. Maya pulled out her laptop and began researching more thoroughly. She looked up Victoria's divorce proceedings, her social media history, her public appearances, and her business interests. Slowly, a picture began to emerge that made Maya's blood run cold. Victoria Blackwell wasn't just going through a divorce. She was fighting for custody of her children against a husband who was claiming she was an unfit mother due to her drinking. If Victoria was indeed pregnant and Charles could prove she was drinking alcohol while carrying their child, it would be devastating to her case. But if Victoria could prove she was being discriminated against, harassed, and persecuted by prejudiced individuals who were making false assumptions about her body, well, that would make her look like a victim rather than a perpetrator. Maya didn't sleep that night. She spent hours at her laptop, digging deeper into Victoria Blackwell's life, following every digital trail she could find. Social media posts, news articles about the divorce, public records, professional networking sites. anything that might give her insight into what Victoria was really doing. By dawn, Maya had assembled a timeline that painted a disturbing picture. Victoria's marriage had been deteriorating for 2 years. Charles Blackwell had filed for divorce 8 months ago, citing irreconcilable differences and concerns about spouse's fitness as a parent due to alcohol dependency. Victoria had fought back hard, hiring expensive lawyers and a public relations firm to manage her image. Her social media presence had become more polished and strategic, with regular posts about women's rights, body positivity, and fighting discrimination. She had built a following of people who saw her as an advocate against unfair treatment. But there were gaps in the timeline. Periods where Victoria had been notably absent from public events, times when her social media posts seemed sparse or carefully curated. And then, about 6 months ago, the posts had resumed with Victoria appearing in flowing clothes, strategic camera angles, and carefully chosen backgrounds. Maya cross-referenced these dates with the divorce filings and found something interesting. Charles had modified his custody demands around the same time, adding specific language about protecting any future children from what he termed Victoria's destructive lifestyle choices. Victoria was pregnant. Maya was certain of it now. And Victoria was using Maya's attempts to protect the unborn child as ammunition in a public relations war designed to discredit anyone who questioned her behavior. Maya's phone buzzed with another text from Jennifer. "Don't look at Instagram. It's getting worse." But Maya couldn't help herself. Victoria's videos had been shared hundreds of times, spawning discussions across multiple platforms. The hashtags #bodyshaming and #Romanos discrimination were trending locally. Food bloggers and social justice advocates were picking up the story, turning Maya into a symbol of everything wrong with prejudice and assumption. The audacity of this waitress to police a customer's body is exactly the kind of patriarchal oppression women face every day, wrote one popular blogger with 50,000 followers. Another post read, "This is why women can't trust service industry workers. They think they know better than we do about our own bodies." Maya felt sick reading the comments, but she forced herself to keep looking. Buried among the outrage and calls for boycotts, she found something unexpected: doubt. A few people were asking questions. Why would someone come back to the same restaurant multiple times if they had been truly discriminated against? Why bring cameras and friends to document a routine dinner? Why post professional quality videos instead of just leaving negative reviews? One commenter wrote, "Something about this seems off. The woman's story keeps changing slightly, and her behavior is really dramatic for someone just trying to eat dinner." Another, "I'm all for calling out discrimination, but this feels orchestrated. Why would you want to eat somewhere that supposedly treated you terribly?" Maya screenshot these comments, sensing that she wasn't the only one who found Victoria's behavior suspicious. But the doubters were vastly outnumbered by supporters, and Victoria was actively responding to comments, further cementing her narrative. Maya's phone rang. It was Michael Romano, calling from the restaurant. "Maya," his voice was tense. "We have a problem. Victoria Blackwell is here again, with more people this time. She set up what looks like a protest outside the front door." Maya's heart sank. A protest? About 15 people with signs. "Stop body shaming. Discrimination is not service," that kind of thing. "They're scaring away customers." "Mr. Romano, I'm so sorry. This is all my fault." "Maya, this isn't your fault. You followed policy and tried to do the right thing. But I need to figure out how to handle this before it destroys the restaurant." Maya could hear the strain in his voice. Romano's was a family business that had been operating for 25 years. Michael's father had built it from nothing, and now Victoria's campaign was threatening to tear it down. "What can I do?" Maya asked. "Nothing. Stay home today. I'm going to try to talk to them, see if I can resolve this." But Maya couldn't just sit at home while Victoria destroyed innocent people's livelihoods. There had to be something she could do, some way to expose the truth about what Victoria was really doing. She thought about her research from the night before, about the timeline of Victoria's pregnancy and the divorce proceedings. If she could prove that Victoria was deliberately lying about her condition to manipulate public opinion. Maya grabbed her keys and drove toward downtown Chicago. She wasn't going to Romano's. That would just escalate the situation. Instead, she had a different destination in mind. The Cook County Courthouse was an imposing building that housed public records for the entire metropolitan area. Maya had learned from her internet research that divorce proceedings were public record, which meant she could access the actual court documents rather than relying on news reports and speculation. It took her 2 hours to navigate the bureaucracy and find the right department, but eventually Maya was sitting at a computer terminal in the records office, scrolling through the Blackwell divorce file. What she found was even worse than she had imagined. Charles Blackwell's most recent filing, dated just 2 weeks earlier, included sworn statements from multiple witnesses claiming they had seen Victoria drinking alcohol while obviously pregnant at various social events over the past several months. He was requesting emergency custody of their existing children and asking the court to appoint a guardian for any unborn children who may be at risk due to respondents' alcohol consumption during pregnancy. Victoria's response, filed just 3 days ago, was a masterpiece of manipulation. She denied being pregnant, claimed the witnesses were lying or mistaken, and accused Charles of orchestrating a harassment campaign designed to make her appear unfit. She had attached dozens of character references and social media posts supporting her claims of being discriminated against and body-shamed by people making assumptions about her appearance. Maya's name appeared in the filing. Victoria had included screenshots of the videos she had posted about Romanos, claiming they were evidence of the systematic harassment she was facing from people who had been influenced by Charles's false claims about her pregnancy. Maya was described as an agent of the harassment campaign, and her actions were cited as proof that Charles had poisoned public opinion against respondent through false claims about her condition. Maya stared at the court documents in shock. She had become an unwitting participant in a custody battle, her attempts to protect an unborn child twisted into evidence of a harassment conspiracy. But there was something Victoria hadn't counted on. Maya now had access to the full timeline of the divorce proceedings, including medical records that had been sealed from public view, but were available to parties in the custody dispute. Victoria Blackwell was indeed pregnant. The medical records, filed under seal by Charles's attorneys, showed positive pregnancy tests, ultrasound images, and prenatal care documentation going back 5 months. Maya photographed the relevant pages with her phone, her hands shaking as she realized the magnitude of Victoria's deception. This wasn't just about lying to a waitress or manipulating social media. Victoria was committing perjury in court documents, lying under oath about her pregnancy, while simultaneously drinking alcohol in public. With the evidence secured, Maya left the courthouse and drove to the one place she knew she could find an ally, the office of Dr. Sarah Chun, a family practice physician who had been treating Maya's mother during her cancer treatments. Dr. Chun was a small, serious woman in her 50s who had immigrated to the United States from Taiwan as a young woman. She had built her practice serving working-class families in Maya's neighborhood, and she was known for her no-nonsense approach to both medicine and life. Maya. Dr. Chen looked up from her paperwork as Maya was shown into her office. "How is your mother doing? Is she keeping up with her treatments?" "She's doing well, thank you. But I'm here about something else. I need your professional opinion about a medical situation." Maya explained the events of the past few days, showing Dr. Chen the photos she had taken at the courthouse and the videos Victoria had posted online. Dr. Chun listened with growing concern, occasionally asking for clarification or requesting to see specific documents. "This woman is clearly pregnant," Dr. Chun said finally, studying the ultrasound images from the court filing. "Based on these medical records, she's approximately 24 weeks along. At that stage of pregnancy, alcohol consumption can cause serious developmental problems for the baby. But she's denying being pregnant and claiming people are discriminating against her based on weight gain." Dr. Chen's expression hardened. "Maya, this is not weight gain. This is a woman who is 6 months pregnant and drinking alcohol while lying about her condition. If she's doing this in public, what is she doing in private? Can you help me prove it?" Dr. Chun was quiet for a long moment, clearly weighing her options. "Maya, I can't get involved in someone else's legal battles. But I can tell you that if a pregnant woman is consuming alcohol and lying about her pregnancy, there may be grounds for a wellness check or intervention." "What kind of intervention?" "If someone reports concerns about prenatal alcohol exposure to Child Protective Services, they're required to investigate. If the investigation finds evidence of substance abuse during pregnancy, they can petition the court for intervention. Maya felt a spark of hope. Would the court documents I found be enough evidence? Combined with witness statements and documented instances of alcohol consumption while pregnant? Yes, that would likely be enough for CPS to open an investigation. Dr. Chen leaned forward, her expression serious. Maya, I want you to understand what you're considering. If you report Victoria Blackwell to Child Protective Services, you're potentially saving an unborn child from serious harm. But you're also stepping into the middle of a nasty divorce and custody battle. This woman has already shown she's willing to destroy your reputation to protect herself. She's already destroying my reputation, Maya pointed out. And if I don't do something, she's going to keep drinking while pregnant and probably hurt her baby. Dr. Chen nodded slowly. Then, you know what you have to do. The call came at 6 in the morning on Monday. Maya was already awake, having spent another sleepless night worrying about what would happen when the truth came out. She didn't recognize the number, but something made her answer. Is this Maya Washington? The voice was crisp, professional, with an edge of authority. Yes, this is Maya. Ms. Washington, this is Detective Angela Rodriguez with the Chicago Police Department. I need to speak with you about Victoria Blackwell. Maya's blood ran cold. Is everything okay? Has something happened to her? Ms. Blackwell was arrested early this morning on charges of perjury, child endangerment, and filing false police reports. She's claiming you've been harassing and stalking her. I need you to come to the station to give a statement. Maya felt the world tilt around her. She was arrested? The Child Protective Services investigation you initiated uncovered evidence that Ms. Blackwell has been lying under oath in court proceedings while engaging in behavior that endangers her unborn child. However, she's now claiming that you've been part of a conspiracy to frame her. Detective Rodriguez, I've never contacted Victoria Blackwell outside of serving her at the restaurant. I haven't harassed or stalked anyone. I believe you, Ms. Washington. But I need to document your side of the story officially. Can you be here by 10 a.m.? Maya agreed and spent the next few hours preparing for what she knew would be the most important conversation of her life. She gathered all her evidence, the court documents, the photos, the timeline she had constructed, the witness statements from her coworkers. The police station was exactly what Maya expected: beige walls, harsh fluorescent lighting, and the smell of burnt coffee and disinfectant. Detective Rodriguez turned out to be a woman in her 40s with graying hair and intelligent dark eyes. She listened to Maya's story without interruption, occasionally asking for clarification or requesting to see specific documents. Ms. Washington, Detective Rodriguez said when Maya finished, you should know that your report to Child Protective Services may have saved a life. The medical examination we conducted this morning confirmed that Ms. Blackwell is 25 weeks pregnant. Blood tests showed significant alcohol levels, and ultrasound imaging revealed signs of fetal alcohol syndrome. Maya felt sick. The baby has been damaged. The doctors are cautiously optimistic, but there will likely be developmental issues. If Ms. Blackwell had continued drinking for the remainder of her pregnancy. Detective Rodriguez didn't finish the sentence. What happens now? Ms. Blackwell has been charged and released on bond, but she's under court order to enter a residential treatment program immediately. Her other children have been placed in temporary protective custody, pending the outcome of the divorce proceedings. And she's been ordered to have no contact with you or anyone at Romano's restaurant. Maya should have felt relieved, but instead she felt empty. Detective, can I ask you something? Why did she target me specifically? She could have gone to any restaurant, ordered alcohol anywhere. Why make such a big deal about what happened at Romano's? Detective Rodriguez leaned back in her chair. We found evidence that Ms. Blackwell had been planning this campaign for weeks. She researched restaurants with young female staff, looking for servers who might question her alcohol consumption. She specifically chose places where she thought she could provoke a confrontation and then document it. So it was all planned. The divorce attorney we spoke with believes Ms. Blackwell was trying to create a narrative that she was being systematically harassed and discriminated against, which would support her claims that her husband was orchestrating a campaign against her. Your refusal to serve her alcohol was exactly what she needed to build her case. Maya stared at the detective in disbelief. She was using me. You were a pawn in a much larger game, Ms. Washington. Unfortunately, you were also the person brave enough to trust your instincts and do the right thing, even when it was difficult. As Maya left the police station, her phone was already buzzing with calls and text messages. Word of Victoria's arrest was spreading quickly, and the narrative was shifting dramatically. The same bloggers and social media accounts that had condemned Maya just days earlier were now posting retractions and apologies. The most prominent food blogger in Chicago had posted a lengthy piece titled, "When Advocacy Goes Wrong: The Victoria Blackwell Deception," which detailed how Victoria had manipulated social media to create false outrage. The post included quotes from legal experts explaining how Victoria's lies had endangered her unborn child and perverted legitimate discussions about discrimination. Maya's phone rang. It was Michael Romano. "Maya, have you seen the news? I just left the police station. Detective Rodriguez told me about the arrest. Maya, I owe you an enormous apology. I should have supported you more strongly from the beginning. I let that woman intimidate me into doubting your judgment." "Mr. Romano, you were trying to protect the restaurant. I understand." "No, Maya. You were trying to protect a baby, and I should have stood behind you 100%. Michael's voice was emotional. "The restaurant has been fielding calls all morning from people who want to apologize for the boycott threats. Everyone wants to know when you'll be back to work." Maya realized she hadn't even thought about returning to work. The past week had been so consuming that normal life seemed like a foreign concept. "I'd like to come back," she said. "But maybe we should wait until things calm down a bit. Actually, Maya, I have a proposition for you." The owner of the Chicago Restaurant Association called this morning. "They want to hire you as a consultant to help train service staff about recognizing signs of pregnancy-related alcohol issues. Apparently, what happened here has opened everyone's eyes to how common this problem might be." Maya was speechless. A week ago, she had been worried about losing her job for refusing to serve wine to a pregnant customer. Now she was being offered a position helping other restaurants handle similar situations. "Think about it," Michael continued. "You don't have to decide today. But, Maya, what you did took courage, and the restaurant industry needs people like you." That afternoon, Maya drove to her mother's house to tell her about the morning's developments. She found her mother in the garden, tending to the tomato plants she had insisted on growing despite her ongoing cancer treatments. "Mama," Maya called as she walked through the gate, "I have news." Her mother looked up with a smile that faded when she saw Maya's expression. "What's wrong, baby?" Maya told her everything: the police station, the arrest, the evidence of fetal alcohol syndrome, the job offers, the media attention. Her mother listened quietly, occasionally reaching out to touch Maya's hand. "Maya Elizabeth," her mother said when she finished. "Do you know what your grandmother would have said about all this?" "No, ma'am." She would have said, "Sometimes doing right means standing alone, but standing alone for what's right is never really alone." Her mother smiled. "You trusted yourself when everyone else was telling you to doubt what you saw. You protected a child when it would have been easier to just serve the wine and forget about it. But I feel terrible about Victoria's other children being taken away, about her being arrested. Maya, that woman made her own choices. She chose to drink while pregnant. She chose to lie about it. She chose to try to destroy your reputation to cover up her lies." Her mother's voice was firm. "You didn't cause any of that. You just refused to be part of it." 2 weeks later, Maya stood in the conference room of the Chicago Restaurant Association, looking out at an audience of restaurant owners, managers, and senior staff. She was wearing her best dress and carrying a folder full of materials about recognizing signs of alcohol abuse during pregnancy and handling difficult service situations. Her hands were shaking slightly as she approached the podium, but her voice was steady as she began to speak. 2 weeks ago, I was a waitress at Romano's Fine Dining. I thought my biggest challenge was remembering who ordered the salmon and who wanted extra bread. There were a few chuckles from the audience. I never imagined I would be standing here talking to you about protecting unborn children and recognizing deception." Maya told her story simply and directly, focusing on the facts rather than the emotions. She explained how Victoria's behavior had seemed wrong from the beginning, how she had trusted her instincts despite pressure to ignore them, and how the truth had eventually emerged. "The lesson here isn't that customers are lying to you," Maya concluded. Most people are honest, and most difficult situations have simple solutions. But sometimes you encounter someone who is using your business and your staff to cover up something much darker. When that happens, you have to trust your training, trust your instincts, and do what's right, even when it's difficult. The applause was warm and sustained. After her presentation, several restaurant owners approached Maya to ask about consulting for their establishments. A representative from the Illinois Department of Public Health wanted to discuss incorporating her experience into statewide training materials. Maya left the conference with a stack of business cards and a growing sense that her life had changed in ways she was still trying to understand. 6 months later, Maya received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Ms. Washington, I wanted you to know that my daughter was born healthy despite everything that happened. The doctors say the damage was minimal because the pregnancy was detected and monitored in time. She's beautiful and perfect, and I think about what might have happened if you hadn't been brave enough to trust your instincts. I can't apologize enough for what I put you through. I was drowning in my own problems, and I made terrible choices that hurt innocent people, including you. I hope you can forgive me someday. The divorce is final. Charles has custody of our older children for now, but I'm working to prove I can be the mother they deserve. I'm in treatment, and I'm committed to staying sober. Thank you for saving my daughter. Thank you for being stronger than I was. VB. Maya folded the letter carefully and placed it in her desk drawer. Through her office window, she could see Lake Michigan stretching toward the horizon, calm and blue in the afternoon sunlight. Her consulting business was thriving. She had helped dozens of restaurants develop policies for handling difficult service situations, and she had trained hundreds of servers to recognize signs of problems that went beyond simple customer complaints. Sometimes doing right meant standing alone. But Maya Washington had learned that standing alone for what's right meant she was never really alone at all. The black waitress who had accidentally spilled wine, metaphorically speaking, on a pregnant woman had discovered that sometimes accidents reveal truths that change everything. And sometimes, the most important thing you can do is trust yourself when everyone else tells you to doubt what you see. That evening, Maya sat in her apartment with all her evidence spread across her coffee table. Court documents, screenshots of social media posts, photos of Victoria clearly pregnant while drinking wine, witness statements from her coworkers who had seen Victoria's behavior firsthand. She had spent the afternoon calling Child Protective Services and speaking with a social worker who had taken her report seriously. The investigation would begin Monday morning, and Victoria would be required to submit to medical examination and testing. Maya's phone had been buzzing all day with calls from reporters and bloggers who wanted to interview her about the discrimination allegations. She had ignored them all, but she knew that wouldn't be possible much longer. Once CPS began their investigation, the truth would come out. Victoria Blackwell was about to discover that Maya Washington was not as easy to destroy as she had assumed. And Maya was about to learn that exposing the truth came with consequences she had never imagined. Maya was beginning to understand that she hadn't just stumbled into someone else's family drama. She had been deliberately targeted as part of an elaborate scheme to manipulate public opinion and legal proceedings. And Victoria Blackwell had played her perfectly. Maya stared at her laptop screen, at the dozens of angry comments still pouring in under Victoria's videos, and realized that this was far from over. Victoria had shown her hand too clearly, had been too aggressive in her manipulation. There had to be a way to expose the truth, and Maya was going to find it. As Maya returned to the dining room, she caught Victoria raising her wine glass in what looked like a mock toast in her direction. The gesture felt like a declaration of war, and Maya Washington was beginning to realize she was completely outgunned. Victoria was pregnant and lying about it, about the sick feeling she got every time she watched the woman drink wine, about the way Victoria seemed to be deliberately tormenting her. But she also remembered the photos Victoria had shown, the conviction in her voice, the way her friends had backed up her story. I can handle it, Maya said finally. I just want to do my job and make sure our customers are happy. Good. But Maya? Michael paused, choosing his words carefully. In the future, maybe give customers the benefit of the doubt when it comes to personal situations. We can't always know what's going on in someone's life. The words felt like a gentle reprimand, and Maya nodded. But, as she walked back toward the dining room, Carlos's voice echoed in her mind. Trust your instincts. The problem was, Maya had spent years learning not to trust her instincts. She had been told so many times that she was wrong, too sensitive, seeing things that weren't there, that she had learned to doubt herself automatically. But, looking at Victoria Blackwell, watching her drink wine while obviously pregnant, every cell in Maya's body screamed that something was terribly wrong. As the evening wore on, and Victoria's wine consumption continued, Maya found herself caught between her professional obligations and her growing moral distress. She was serving alcohol to a pregnant woman, helping her potentially harm her unborn child, and there seemed to be nothing she could do about it. The weight of that realization settled on her shoulders like a lead blanket, and Maya Washington realized that this night was going to change everything.